Let's do a little shop status report. This is Saturday about 5 o'clock. I haven't done anything at all today. I just uh, practiced my sloughing off and laid around and didn't do anything at all. I did a pretty good job. Messed up a couple of times, but basically I lazed around the whole day and watched the first season of Game of Thrones. Thank you. So, I mean, you can't get any sluffier than that. And I was just bored and didn't feel like coming out here. So, and I can do that. Anyway, the bathtub Triumph is sitting here. I've got the battery out and ordered a new battery for it. The batteries doesn't support any load at all, so I've ordered a new battery. Now that doesn't stop the troubleshooting because I've got shop batteries I can wire to the bike. When I go back to looking at the wires and switch that are exposed up here in the cowl area up above the headlight. So that's not a problem. I can go back to troubleshooting this. Right now the gold bike is up on the lift, and moving bikes on and off the lift is sort of a pain, so I'm going to leave it there for a day or two. I'm going to invite Kevin down again tomorrow. And this bike is set up to run without a battery, but it's not that hard to hook up a battery. I realize that you really don't have to go under the seat and get at the electronics up in that area. They're way up in there over top of that. See the little blue guy sticking up? You don't have to reach up there and get into that. All I have to do is tie 12 volts to the brake. The wire that goes to the brake switch, one of these two, is 12 volts ignition. All I have to do is hook the battery to one of those. It won't turn on the brake light because we won't be pressing on the pedal, but it will put 12 volts into the ignition. And then all I have to do is ground the other wire to someplace substantial, and the bike will have a 12 volt ignition system all hooked up. So I'm going to invite Kevin down tomorrow to see if he wants to come down, and we'll hook up a battery to it. And we'll do two things. First of all, we'll try it with the battery, but this guy's still running points. And who knows, maybe somebody fooled with the points while trying to get it to run. These look shiny, bright, and new. These look less shiny, bright, and new. So it's very possible that somebody was playing with the points. That's a very large gap right there. That's more than 14 thousandths. So I'll check the gaps on these guys, and we'll set the timing on these guys mechanically, and then we'll hook it to a 12 volt battery and try to start it again. So yeah, these all right. The lubricating pads have been taken off. Not that abnormal. They come in here without the pads anymore all the time. But basically, because of these newer nylon cam followers, don't really need lubrication per se. Doesn't hurt them, but they don't need it like the old fiberglass ones did. So that's not unusual. So we'll set the gap, set the timing, hook a battery to it, and try to start it. I'd like to get this bike started. Once I have a running motorcycle, we'll approach the client about changing out the tires. And at that point in time, we will have fulfilled our mandate, which is to make it run. I'm not sure we'll do a test ride on the bike, because right now the tires, we wouldn't ride this bike on these tires, even for a test ride. And after we get the tires put on the bike, if we do, we might or might not do a test ride, depending on how confident Kevin is on this motorcycle, as situated and set up as it is. Also on this bike, we got a gas leak, a gas seep over here on this petcock, and it's really coming from up here, where the petcock goes into the tank. So we have to drain this out, because I'm not going to start a bike that's got a gas leak. And I've already tightened that once, and it's still leaking. So that has to be fixed before we do anything. That's about it for that. So the gray bike is waiting on a battery. This guy's just waiting on some effort on Kevin's and my part, possibly tomorrow, to see if we can make a runner out of it. In the meantime, back at the ranch, I've got all this stuff here for putting the valves in the Fred head. So I'm going to go ahead right now and put the valves in the Fred head, and I'll set up the tripod and do a videotape of it. We'll see how it goes. All right, what I'm going to do is I'll do this in 2 steps. I'm going to set things up on tape, and I'm going to do a valve or 2 on tape like this from a distance, and then I'll move over and do some close-up as I put a couple of valves in and see if we can't do this successfully on video. So here we go. And the winner is, let's do the intakes first. We'll do an intake and an exhaust. All right. Left intake, right here. Left intake. Now the intakes have rubber oil seals on them. Exhausts don't need oil seals because intakes are being subjected to vacuum, which might suck oil down the shaft, while the exhausts are exposed to explosion going out. So they don't suck oil into the exhaust ports through the valve stems, but the intake might. So you put this on here and it snaps down. Now let's put these down here first, just for the grins of it. Okay. I can't reach it. We're going to put this on. Just snap it in place. These are in excellent condition. I'm not going to worry about them. If I had new ones, I'd change them, but I don't, so I'm not going to. I have the feeling that this head was rebuilt not too long ago. All right. Snapped in place. Nice and firm. Left intake valve. I put just a tad bit of oil on it so it slips in nicely. There's no play. They're really nice. They really are. Okay, valve spring in place. Valve keeper on top. Let's compress this spring. put the keepers in. Thick side up, tapered side down. And the first one always goes in there just so happy. And if they don't want to let go of the pliers because of magnetism, you can get a Q-tip and break the head off, and you have a nice non-ferrous little pokey stick. Okay, so I've got one in. Now let's see if I can get the other in. This is where you can drop one. Real easy. There you go. Okay. Let's see, can you see that? There we go. Nicely in place. Let's do the exhaust. Left exhaust. Just a tad bit of oil on it. Let's put the spring. And on the exhaust, what they have that the intake don't have is a heat washer. Here's washers. Okay. And that goes in first. Then the spring and the inner spring, they go on top. Then the valve keeper and the little valve keepers, shall we say. Let's put this together. Okay, that's one. magnetism gets me again. It was in there and it pulled out with the magnet. Magnetism of the pliers. That was my fault. Gets back in there. Okay, good. There it goes. Going in, going in, going in. All right, we have left side intake. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, I'm gonna fall over doing this. Yeah, left side intake. Left side exhaust. All right, just for grins, I'm gonna move the camera over here and try to get some close-ups of inserting those valve keepers, okay, in the next two. Let's see how this goes. Let me get the head in place. Let's do the right intake first. Oil seal. Let's see, can you see this? Okay. Oil seal. Springs. Let's see how you're doing there for visibility. Okay, so we're right in the way. We'll try this angle for a while. Now, all I have to do is find my two keepers here. All I have to do is find my two keepers. Here's one keeper weeper. Oh, come on. And here's the other one still in the bag. Thank goodness. Okay. Let's see if we can get this in here so you can see what's going on. You have to have, when one is in, you have to have enough gap on the other side to put the second one in. So it'll fall. That looks like there might be enough. Nice shadow right in the way. That. Oh, don't you know? Now that I've got a nice close-up going here, I'm having a difficult time putting in the second one. How to do it. Okay, I think it's in. There we go. Okay, so it's in. Now, I've had people say, I've heard the rumor that they say, they say, and they say that the gap on both sides of the clips should be equal. They say. I've never seen any intelligence behind that, but it seems like a good thing for they to say. So I listen to they say, and then I ignore it. So that's one. They say is never wrong, because I know a guy who knew a guy whose sister's next door neighbor's second cousin put him in there without having the gap exactly the same. And don't you know the very next day his refrigerator stopped working? And don't know how it must have made the refrigerator stop working, but it did. Let's do this one. Heat insulator, valve springs on support, like so. Head valve keeper in place. Reaching over and getting the exhaust valve. Let's put a little drop on there. Once again, there is no play in this valve stem. It is tight as a, I'd say tight as a drum, but it's not tight as a drum. It's tight. It's nice and smooth. No slack. All right. Let's get this up on the clamp and do the last one. Then I'll show you the last final thing I do, because my dad did it. And I've always thought it was a good idea, even though, once again, it's probably a they say. I don't know anybody who's ever seen one of these things pop out. Personally, known anyone who's had one pop out. Now, my next door neighbor's second cousin's sister's boyfriend had one pop out. But I've never known anyone to have one pop out. So I'm a little not sure about it. So anyway, we're going to take this, put it in, got our pusher over there. Pop in there, pop in the hole, go in the hole, hole calls, you walk towards the hole. There it goes. Okay, so that one's in. You have to get it in the cutaway here. And sometimes you have them too high, sometimes you have it too low. That should work pretty good. Now let's see if we can get the next one in the gap back here. The last one of the last one. 11th day of the 11th month of the 11th hour. Let's see if this is going to go flying. If you go too shallow, it's difficult. If you go too deep, it's difficult. You have to adjust the height so that you have the biggest gap to slip these things into. A little poop. So is it too low, too high? There, that's the way it is. This is almost embarrassing. If you're as frustrated as I am. It's the last one of the last one. And there it goes finally. Oh, you miserable piece of poop. My arm's getting tired. I'm too far this side. I'm working in a shadow on this side. Agonizing, isn't it, to watch this? And it's finally falling in. It's under the lip now. Let's see if it'll stay there as I draw this out. Oh, that was pure agony. And that's the fun of it. Sometimes they jump happily into place, sometimes they don't. All right, so let's see, do we still have a good view there? Or are you getting a picture of the headlight? Okay, so let's move this over here. The last thing I do is what my dad always did, and I do it too. So I take a piece of soft plastic or metal or something. Nice piece of black plastic. And you just pound on these things with a hammer, because hitting them with this is no worse than hitting them with the taffet. But I'll put that on top of there, and I will, as he called it, seat the valves. Like that. And theoretically, if one of these clips wasn't all the way in, it would come flying out of there and you'd be, in good shape. You'd save the motor. But I've never seen a problem, so They're tight and the gaps are uneven, and I don't care because they say doesn't it really have a place in this workshop. Now if you say I did, you did, I know when I did, I'll listen to it. But boy, I don't want to hear a story about your next door neighbor's best friend's girlfriend's cousin. And they say, unless it's documented, a lot of they say going around. All right, so at this point in time, I've got the valves back in the Fred head, and I'll clean it up some more tomorrow to get my hand oil out of it. And there they are, all in place very nicely. If you're interested, the carbon was so deep on this that I actually used a little hand grinder to get through it. So we'll see. As soon as I get the new 60 over pistons, which is probably going to be a week or two, I'll take the barrels are at the machinist. He will bore them to fit the new pistons, and I will put this top end back together. We'll take it from there. So that's it for now. Nothing more exciting. Tomorrow we'll work on the gold bike for a while.